Rome, master of the world. Its armies crush nations. Its wealth knows no bounds. But empires are not broken by kings. They are broken by slaves. In 73 BC, one man will rise from the blood-soaked sands of the arena. His name is Spartacus. And this is how he brought Rome to its knees. Capua, 73 BC. 74 men are about to shatter the foundations of an empire. They're not soldiers, they're not citizens. They're gladiators, slaves trained to die for entertainment. And tonight, they're seizing kitchen knives and choosing freedom over the arena. Leading them is Spartacus, a Thracian warrior who once fought for Rome, then against it, and now finds himself enslaved by it. Beside him, Crassus, a fierce Gaul, and Oenomaus, a German giant. 3 men from 3 nations, united by chains and rage. The plan leaks. They have no weapons. The armory is locked. The guards are coming. They storm the kitchen, a desperate, chaotic frenzy. Choppers, spits, knives, and burning brands. This is not the graceful dance of the arena. It is the raw butchery of survival. They seek high ground. Mount Vesuvius, the dormant volcano overlooking the Bay of Naples. Its vine-tangled slopes become their fortress. Here they elect their leaders, Spartacus, Crassus, and Oenomaus. 3 men distinct in origin, united by a single purpose, to burn the institution of slavery to the ground. Rome laughs. The Senate hears of the revolt and scoffs. They don't send a legion, they send a police force. Gaius Claudius Glaber arrives with 3,000 militia. They don't attack, they blockade. They camp at the only path up the mountain, intending to starve the slaves into submission. Glaber underestimates the ingenuity of men who have nothing to lose. The cliffs of Vesuvius are sheer, considered impassable. That is exactly why Spartacus chooses them. Under cover of darkness, using vines twisted into ropes, the rebels descend the vertical drop behind Glaber's camp. It is a silent, ghostly maneuver. While the Romans sleep, guarding the front door, death creeps in through the back window. Just before dawn, the rebels strike with the fury of men reclaiming their souls. The Roman militia crumbles instantly. Glaber flees in disgrace. Rome's response: send Publius Verinius with 2 legions. The praetor arrives with his centurions, studying military maps, plotting his strategy. But the rebels have already stripped the dead, slaves now wearing the armor of their oppressors. The rebellion explodes. Cities fall: Nola, Nuceria, Thurii, Metapontum. Each victory brings more slaves. The name Spartacus whispers through Italy like wildfire. Word spreads to the Ergastula, the slave prisons of the countryside. They break their chains and come in droves. Shepherds, herdsmen, heavy with muscle and resentment, descend from the hills. The army swells to 70,000, a city on the move. Spartacus stands before them, now wearing a captured Roman officer's bronze cuirass. He gestures toward the distant Alps, freedom visible on the horizon, but victory brings division. Rome sends another praetor, Publius Verinius, with 2 legions. Spartacus uses the land against them. He deploys decoys, propping up fresh corpses on stakes at the perimeter of his camp, while his main force slips away. He outmaneuvers the Romans, turning the hunter into the hunted. But strategy divides the leadership. Crassus, the fierce Gallic warrior, disagrees with Spartacus. He's drunk on victory and wants more plunder. Spartacus proposes marching to the Alps, cross the mountains, disperse to their homelands, leave Rome behind. Crassus refuses. He takes 30,000 men and splits away. The brotherhood fractures. Consul Gellius Publicola catches Crassus near Mount Garganus. The Gauls fight with savage fury, but they are outnumbered and outgeneraled. 30,000 rebels die. Crixus falls in the mud. News reaches Spartacus like a physical blow. But grief is a luxury a general cannot afford. Spartacus's response is calculated brutality. To honor Crixus, he holds funeral games, but with a grim twist. 300 noble Roman prisoners are forced to fight as gladiators. He forces them to pair off. He forces them to fight to the death around the funeral pyre. The masters act the part of the slaves. Then Spartacus destroys both consular armies in sequence. At Picenum, he shatters Lentulus. At Mutina, he crushes the governor of Cisalpine Gaul. The road to the Alps lies open. Victory has never been closer. They reach the foothills. The Alps dominate the horizon, snow-capped peaks gleaming in Mediterranean sun. Beyond those peaks, Gaul, Germania, home. Plutarch tells us Spartacus wanted to cross. The army refuses. They've tasted Roman blood and Roman gold. They've burned Roman cities. Why run when they can conquer? At the very threshold of liberty, the unthinkable happens. They turn south. Back into the wolf's mouth. Historians will debate this moment for 2,000 years. We'll never know why. What we know is this: it doomed them all. Inside his tent, Spartacus sits alone with crude maps and captured Roman military documents. His expression shows the weight of impossible choices. Does he enforce the march north and risk mutiny? Does he follow the army south and risk annihilation? Every choice has a body count, and the army has chosen south. The slave army sweeps back through Italy. They raid, they plunder, they grow. By late 72 BCE, Spartacus commands 120,000 followers. It is not just an army, it is a migration. Rome is terrified. The consuls have been defeated. There are no commanders left who want the job. Into this void steps Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man in Rome. Crassus doesn't ask the Senate for soldiers. He raises, equips, and pays for 6 new legions from his own fortune, 40,000 men. But these are not raw recruits. Crassus hires veterans. He equips them with the finest steel money can buy. He treats the war not as a military campaign, but as a business transaction that must be balanced in blood. Crassus sends his lieutenant, Mummius, with orders to observe, not engage. But Mummius attacks anyway, eager for glory. It is a disaster. Spartacus routs them. 500 Romans die. Crassus's response is ancient and terrible: decimation. Every 10th soldier is selected by lot and beaten to death by their own comrades. The message is clear: fear your general more than the enemy. Driven south by relentless pursuit, Spartacus reaches the toe of Italy, Rhegium. Across the narrow strait lies Sicily. If they can cross, they can hold the island and starve Rome. Spartacus turns to Cilician pirates. The deal is struck. Gold changes hands. Hope flares one last time. The day of departure arrives. The rebels gather on the beaches, scanning the horizon. The gold has been paid, but the horizon remains empty. The sun rises and sets, and no sails appear. The Cilicians have taken the treasure and sailed away. Betrayal, cold and absolute. Spartacus stands on the shore, trapped between sea and pursuing legions. Behind them, the trap snaps shut. Crassus arrives, but he does not attack. He has learned respect for the gladiator's sword. Instead, he orders his legions to dig. They will build a wall across the entire width of the peninsula. From sea to sea, 37 miles of fortification. It is an engineering feat that rivals the pyramids. The cage closes. Winter sets in. Famine stalks the trapped rebels. Then, a blizzard howls off the mountains. Under cover of the snowstorm, rebels breach Crassus's wall. They pour over the fortifications in coordinated assault. Bodies scatter in the white landscape. Spartacus breaks through. A third of his army is lost in the crossing, but the core escapes into Lucania. Spring, 71 BC. The end game begins. Discipline fractures under the weight of despair. A large faction of Gauls and Germans refuses to march further. They break away from the main column, the same mistake Crassus made. Crassus strikes immediately. His legions descend with mechanical ruthlessness. 12,000 rebels are butchered. History repeats itself in blood. Pompey the Great marches south from Spain. His legions are pristine, disciplined columns stretching to the horizon. Lucullus blocks escape to the east. Crassus presses from behind. Spartacus is surrounded by the three greatest armies of the Republic. Spartacus retreats to the Silarus River. There is no retreat, no clever maneuver, no mountain to climb. The beast must turn and bite. The morning of the final battle arrives. A horse is brought to Spartacus. He stands beside the animal, hand on its neck in a final moment. His expression shows solemn determination. Spartacus draws his sword and plunges it into the horse's neck. The animal falls, blood pooling in the dirt. If we win, he shouts to his men, I will have 1,000 glorious horses to choose from. If we lose, I will not need one. It is the ultimate statement of commitment. He will not flee. A roar goes up from the rebel line, a sound of defiance that shakes the earth. The armies collide at the Silarus River. Thousands of rebels rush toward Roman lines with weapons raised. Spartacus at the front, wielding his Psyche sword, leading the desperate fury. The sound is deafening, the clash of steel on shields, the screams of the dying. It is not a battle of tactics, it is a brawl of hatred. Roman discipline meets rebel fury. Legionaries lock their shields overhead and on sides, creating an armored shell, the testudo formation. It is an impenetrable defensive wall. Rebels attack from multiple angles, unable to break through. This is what makes Rome an empire. Spartacus fights at the very tip of the wedge. He is a demon of war, cutting a path straight toward Crassus. He kills 2 centurions who try to stop him. Multiple wounds bleed. A javelin pierces his thigh. Still he fights, sinking to one knee, striking at anyone who comes near. He is surrounded. The sheer weight of numbers prevails. He is pierced by a dozen swords. He falls, not as a slave, but as a free man. 60,000 slaves die on that field. Pompey's cavalry intercepts 5,000 fleeing survivors. It is systematic slaughter, no mercy shown. Pompey then writes to the Senate claiming he ended the war, stealing credit from Crassus. The aftermath is the cruelty for which Rome will be forever remembered. 6,000 prisoners are taken alive. Crassus gives the order. They are to be crucified. Along the Appian Way, wooden crosses are erected. From Capua to Rome, over 100 miles, every 40 yards a man is nailed to wood. 6,000 crosses creating a forest of suffering. A message written in agony for any slave who dares dream of freedom. Crucifixion is designed for maximum suffering. The victim is nailed through hands and feet to the wooden cross. The position causes slow asphyxiation, every breath an agony. Death takes days. This is the brutal reality of Roman punishment. This is the warning written in flesh. Pompey receives a full triumph, drawn through Rome in a chariot with white horses, laurel crown on his head, crowds cheering. Crassus receives only an ovation, a lesser honor, walking on foot. The insult deepens the hatred between them. The Third Servile War is over. The first triumvirate is being born. But the psychological wound on Rome never fully heals. The Senate debates in hushed tones. The war revealed Rome's military weakness. Consuls defeated, legions routed by slaves. What does this mean for the Republic's future? The question hangs in the air like smoke. They can kill every rebel. They can line the roads with crosses, but they cannot kill what Spartacus proved, that Rome's power rests on a foundation of chains, and chains can be broken. The Romans never wrote Spartacus's story from his perspective. Every account comes from his enemies, written generations later by historians trying to make sense of how a slave nearly broke Rome. Yet even they can't hide their admiration. Plutarch describes him as intelligent and cultured. Appian emphasizes his military genius. These are the grudging tributes of men who cannot deny what he achieved. Ancient manuscripts survive, aged papyrus with Latin script. More Greek than Thracian in spirit, Plutarch writes. A great general, noble character, others note. The scrolls contain facts and dates, victories and defeats, but between the lines, you can read what they won't say. He terrified them. A slave who fought like a Roman, led like a consul, and died like a hero. They can't explain him, they can only remember him. 18 centuries pass. In the streets of Berlin, 1919, revolutionaries carry red banners bearing his name. The Spartacist League, German workers rising against oppression, invoking the gladiator who defied Rome. Karl Liebknecht and Rosa Luxemburg lead the uprising. They fail, they die. But they chose his name for a reason. Spartacus means resistance. It means refusing to kneel. In his London study, Karl Marx writes, Spartacus is the most splendid fellow in the whole of ancient history, a great general, a noble character, a real representative of the proletariat. The ancient gladiator becomes a hero of modern political theory. The slave revolt becomes revolution. The story transforms across centuries, but the core remains. One man said no to an empire, and for 2 years the empire trembled. Hollywood takes the story and makes it legend. Kirk Douglas as Spartacus, 1960. I Am Spartacus echoes through theaters. The film wins Oscars. The gladiator becomes an icon. Broken chains, raised fist, defiance immortalized on screen. The real man, complex, flawed, human, becomes a simplified symbol. But maybe that's what he always was, a symbol that the oppressed can fight back. In southern Italy, monuments mark the battlefields, stone sculptures of freed slaves breaking chains. Inscriptions in Latin and Italian honor those who fought for freedom. Tourists photograph the memorials. School groups take notes. The sites are maintained, preserved, remembered. 2,000 years later, the memory refuses to die. Archaeologists dig at Silarus River in Lucania. They find fragments, bronze helmet pieces, rusted sword blades, broken shield bosses, 2 millennia of soil brushed away to reveal the final stand. The objects are catalogued, placed in museums, studied. Physical evidence of the day 60,000 slaves chose to die fighting rather than live in chains. The Appian Way still exists. Ancient stone paving blocks, weathered by 2,000 years of feet and wheels. Umbrella pines line the road. Tourists walk where crosses once stood. The wood rotted away centuries ago. The bones are dust, but the memory endures. This road witnessed Rome's cruelty and one man's defiance. The stones remember. His body was never found. The Romans hacked it to pieces in the frenzy, lost under a mountain of their own dead. No tomb, no grave, no marker. But his name survived. Spartacus, the slave who became a general. The gladiator who chose death over chains. The man who made Rome tremble. 2,000 years later, his name still means freedom. It still means resistance. It still means refusing to kneel. Some victories aren't measured in survival. Some victories are measured in memory. And by that measure, Spartacus won.